guys, Mr. KJN here. You've seen my videos, in-car footage on YouTube. I just thought I'd give you a little bit of a walk around my car, show you the details of it and some of the stuff that I'm doing within the car, the gearbox, how we start it and that sort of stuff. So let's get into it. Okay, so let me just walk you around the car. We'll start off just inside. So if I just pop the door open, the first thing you'll see is the roll cage, which without that we wouldn't be allowed to go racing. And to be honest with you, without it I wouldn't want to go racing. And it's a proper R2 Renault rally car. These points here, all these safety angles, you can see up in the roof, you know, the whole roll cage, as you can see over the other side, is paramount to the safety of this car. And one of the reasons why I chose this car or a more modern car is because it's got such good safety features in it, which is most important. Secondly, as you can see, the seats, they're big bucket seats, and over the last sort of 10 years people have been going for with a headrest support on these. So when you've got your crash helmet on, if you do have an accident, having these here protects your head, so your head doesn't move so far, which is a really nice feature. As you can see, if you look down into them, they're really deep bucket seats, and I set them up on these rails down here on these adjusters so I can get comfortable, because the most important thing is to be on top of the driving position so you're really comfortable, and then you can just drive as flat out as you like, and you can feel the car, feel what it's doing and all that sort of stuff. And then thirdly is the seat belts. As you can see, they're quite wide seat belts. These are about 2.5 inches, I think. The reason I have those is because they're nice on your shoulders when you're sat in the car. It fits nicely over your shoulders. This one's got it's 5-point fixing, so you've got it your turnbuckle down here, so it's a bit like an aircraft buckle. As you can see on the one over here, when it's all clipped together, you can see that there's no getting in and out of those, unless you turn this little dial here, pop that little dial, and then it undoes it, and then you can adjust it on here. So you lift these up when you're sat in the car, you can adjust them. Fire extinguishers, again, you have to have a certain capacity of fire extinguisher. So that's a handheld one. You have to have a handheld, which is reachable by co-driver driver. And then behind the seat, you can probably just see behind there is another plumbed in system. So that is a fully automatic system. So if we do get into a situation and I need to press the fire extinguisher, I've got a little red button here. So we just flip that little cover, press that, and then the fire extinguisher fires. So there's nozzles on my footwell, the co-driver's footwell, and also in the engine bay as well. So just to make sure that if anything does happen from a fuel engine or anything like that, the car is going to put the fire out as quickly as possible. So just talking about the dash, so down here I've got my battery on switch, which will light this dash up here. So if I press that red button, you'll see that the dash lights up. So this is my setup screen. So a few things on there. So you've got the neutral, so that's what gear I'm in. So this is a 5-speed gearbox, so this will go up to 5 and then have an N for neutral and then an R for reverse. And then you've got the engine revs, forward speed, and then fuel, what's actually in the tank. And then at the same time you've got oil pressure of the engine, water temperature, which is really important, and then you've got fuel pressure as well. So you can see the fuel pressure is at 3.5 bar, and then the battery voltage you can see here, and then the numbers across the top, if you can see here, it goes 4, 5, 6, 7. So this engine doesn't really come alive until you get to about 4,500 RPM, and then it really kicks on, and then it'll rev right up to 7,500 RPM. And the lights across the top here, as I'm driving, the revs go up, these change for different colours until it goes into the red, and then when it gets a red light here, then that tells me I've got to the top of the range, and then I can change another gear. Within this I can also change the dash, cycle the dash. So I've got different setups. So this is showing me throttle position. So if I press the throttle pedal down, you can see it goes down to 99%, and if I let it off, it's at 12. And then I can adjust that. So if I want it to go less for tick over, I can adjust that. Or if I need to go, if it wasn't going to 99, I can basically adjust it so it does go to 99. So I just need to know I'm getting through full throttle. Again, you can see the gearbox. The barrel is just a throttle barrel, and SWP is just another setup in a different part of the box. And then, as you can see, on this will commonly be road mode, and this is commonly race mode. So when I'm racing, you'll see this will be my dash. So I want to know what water temperature is, and I also want to know what oil pressure is. And then obviously this here is the bar graph. It goes up in a bar graph. We'll show you a bit later when we run the engine. And then also I've got it as a digital readout as well. And then I've got a night mode as well, so when I'm racing at night, so I haven't got a glare of a dash, I can change it to night mode, and that's the night mode, and then that's back to just to the normal start mode. So the next thing about the car is the gearbox. So the gearbox and the engine are the two major things of this car. So the engine is massively tuned, as I say, from Renault, and this has a sequential gearbox on it. So basically it's just like a motorbike gearbox, so there's no H pattern. So this, just so you don't get confused, this is the handbrake and this is the gear lever. And all I need to do with this is just keep pulling it towards me to go up the gearbox. So that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then back down the gearbox, 2, 1, and then if I want to go into reverse, I pull this little lever behind and push it again, and that will go into reverse. So when you see me on the in-car footage pulling the gearbox up, that's literally what I'm doing. So if you know how a motorbike works, it's the same as that. But this is a SADF sequential gearbox. It's a proper straight cut gearbox. And it just transmits all the power. You lose no power through that gearbox. It's amazing. It's a proper race gearbox. And the other thing we've got on here is what we call flat shift. So flat shift basically means that once I'm in gear and moved off the line, so when you see me pull off the line, when we say go, I can put my foot flat on the throttle, and I don't need to lift it off to change gear. So if you look down here, I'll push my foot straight down on the throttle, so I've pulled away now, and then what I'll do, I'll be in first gear, accelerating away, and then leave my foot on the throttle, go to second, third, fourth, fifth, and at no point do I have to leave my foot off the throttle. So it's flat shift, they call it. And then I only use the clutch pedal, which is obviously the same in any car, again, to go down the gearbox. So if I press the clutch down, I go down a gear, down a gear, down a gear. I obviously have to lift my foot off the throttle to do that, but the beauty of that is that it's just seamless, and it just saves seconds when I'm actually racing the car. So just to show that in practice, just pulled away, so I click second gear, third gear, foot flat on the throttle, and I pull fourth gear now, still flat on the throttle, I haven't lifted the throttle at all, fifth gear, now flat on the throttle, I haven't lifted at all the way down this straight, just before this tree on the left, I'll start lifting off, now down the gearbox, braking for the corner coming up. Okay, so we touched on the handbrake when I was talking about the gearbox. So the handbrake, so we don't, like in a normal car, a lot of normal cars will have a cable that goes to the rear brakes. So when you pull your handbrake up, pull some cables, and then that basically puts handbrake on. So we don't want to put the handbrake on this, we want to use this lever just to aid the car when we're going around real tight corners. And you'll see in some of my footage, I just tweak the handle. So if I show you here, this is like having it, so it's like a normal car handbrake. So if I let that off now, this is what they call a fly-off handbrake. So basically, when I'm driving and racing, if I come to a sharp hairpin, I'll go down the gearbox and I'll just pull the handbrake, just pull it. But as you can see, this handbrake just is a fly-off, so it doesn't actually latch. So I don't want it to latch. So I can basically feel the rear brakes. So I can feel the car sliding round, so I can just pull more power on or less power on in my hand, just so it enables me to feel the back end round. As soon as I'm now pointing in the right direction, I can just let go of the handbrake, get back down onto the gearbox. So here we are, down the gearbox, quick pull of the handbrake, round we go, back up the gearbox, and off we go. It's off again. The only other slight differences on a normal car, so there's a little dial down here. So all these lines are all aircraft equipped lines, so they're all inside the car, so we don't have any fuel or brake lines outside the car, because if it gets caught on a rock or a branch or something, or we go off road, we don't rip any of the brake lines or fuel lines off. So just going back to this here, this is basically the brake bias. So when I'm driving along, if I find it's got wet or the conditions are that I've got too much front end braking or there's too much back end braking, I can dial this dial and it sets more power to the back brakes or more power to the front brakes. It just means that I can just handle the car, set the car up better, I don't lock the wheels up, and I can keep the car stable coming into certain situations. So if it was from dry to wet, if it was really dry, I want more power at the front, or a balance between back and front. If it's really wet, the last thing you want to do is have a lot of brake power on the rear, because you'll come into a corner, your brake perhaps slightly turning in, and if the brake's too much power on the back brakes, that will send the car into a spin. So we call it a brake biased, so we can just balance between front and back. We don't use that a lot in the stage as such, but you'll set it up at the beginning and feel the brakes and go, well, I just need a little bit more on the front or a little bit more at the rear, and then you're set up, and you probably wouldn't touch it again through the whole stage. So I talked earlier about this being a race built car, a rally built car. That basically is the brain of the car. This is all bespoke R2 race loom, and the same with all the fuse box and everything in here. This is all bespoke to this R2 car. I say all the loom, you see the wiring harness down here. This is all inside the car. You can also see here the fire extinguishers we were talking about earlier. So these are the nozzles. So if we do have a situation and we have to deploy the fire extinguisher, that's going to put all foam in here to protect us from any situation we may have. Some of the other stuff is we got the carbon fibre footwell for the co-driver. So he sits in there, his feet go against that, so it's quite important we have that there. So when I'm braking hard, he's got something to brace against. So although he's got his seatbelt on, if he didn't have somewhere to put his feet, they'd be flying about all over the place. So he can plant his feet, get himself comfortable, get himself sat in the car. So it just means that he can give me the notes, and he's not trying to struggle for sitting in the seat and falling all over the place. The other thing is there's a little data plug there, so I can plug into the car to its brain on the laptop, and I can see what the car's doing if we need to make some adjustments or see some data to look at what's going on with the car, or if we need to set up the throttle position and all that sort of stuff. We gain that from that point there. So if I just go through the starting of the car now, it's not straightforward. You can't put your foot on the clutch. It's a race clutch on it, and they're advised not to put your foot on the clutch. I have to hold the throttle down just a little bit, and we just press the starter button, the battery button. So if I press that, you'll see that the dash comes alive. So that's all now up and running, it's live. If I just press the foot throttle down a little bit, put the fuel pumps on, so now we're ready to go, and then just press the starter button. So what I have to do now is I have to balance the throttle. So as you can see, the dash is telling me that the water temperature is low, so I can't rev it high at the moment. I have to wait for that to go up to temperature. You can see here the little bar graph, so if I just flip it a little bit, you'll see, so that would go all the way up. So I'm revving it way past 7, and then it goes a little bit more, it goes into the red, and that tells me then that I've got to change gear. So you can see the little blue light flashing here, that's just warning me of the water temperature. So when the temperature's up high enough, that blue light will go off, and then I know the car's ready to race. Probably what I'll do when I'm just maybe, I don't know, 15 minutes before we go out, we'll probably just leave the car on the stands and just warm the gearbox up, just to make sure all the oil in the engine and the gearbox is all nice and warm, so when we go to stage we're not running a cold car. And also I'll probably just keep pressing the brake pedals every now and again, just to warm the brakes up, so when we do actually get to stage we're not actually running a cold brakes either, so I won't lock the brake up when we're on stage. So as you can see with the dashboard now, the blue light's gone out. You can see the oil temperature, we've got water temperature, you see the battery voltage we talked about earlier. Now this is the current RPM, so it runs quite high, higher than a normal car tick over. It's done like that, so the car warms up better, it ticks over better because it's a very highly tuned engine. and also so when we're pulling away, we're not likely to stall it. So it's very easy to stall these cars. So if you look there, you can see if I just rev it, you can see the revs go up on the bar graph. So when I'm driving it, you can see that rev going up, but it obviously you can see anything under sort of 4. I'm just tickling the front at the moment. So as soon as I get anywhere near 4, all of a sudden, without doing anything, as soon as you hit 4, I don't even have to press the pedal any further, and it just absolutely throws a throttle. So that's when it's coming on cam. While we're on the safety equipment and stuff like that, I'll just show you inside the boot. So we have to have these on. This is part of the regulations, so the boot doesn't come flying open. So not your normal little button in there to open it as you get normally. So inside here, first thing you can probably see is the roll cage, which is again very substantial. The rear shocks are mounted into here, so this is where we get the good feeling from the car, so we can feel the car when I'm driving it, what the car's doing, because you've got a lot of direct connection. Obviously a lot of bars in here, a lot of safety features, so if we did have a rollover, you can see the big rollover loop here. We're as safe as we possibly could be at the end of the day. The other thing you can see is the harnesses. These harnesses are put back to this roll bar as well, so these are really strongly mounted at the end of the day, because actually if anything did happen, these seat belts are holding me and the co-driver in the car, and that's the most important thing to keep us safe. We always carry a spare wheel if we're on a long stage. If we're not on a long stage, potentially we wouldn't run a spare wheel. The only reason we wouldn't run one is for weight, so the less weight in the car. Obviously the less weight, the quicker it will go. Some of the other things you might be able to see is the harnesses. So these are the race looms. So again, there's absolutely nothing extra, just a basic loom, perfectly set up to reduce the weight. So the least amount of weight the better, as I said before. Wheel brace, we have to carry one of those. First aid kit, we have to carry one of those as well. This is a spill kit, so if we have an oil spillage or something like that, we put this down for an environmental perspective. That soaks up all the oil. A high vis, so if we do have an incident and we have to be out on stage when the stage is live. We also have a warning triangle as well, so we have to put that up so many meters behind the car to warn other competitors if we've gone off. And then the most important one is we have a board here which is either OK or SOS. So if we have an accident and we're all OK, we put this on the car so other drivers can see, so we're mounted somewhere. Or if there's an incident and we need help, we put the SOS up, and then it's the responsibility of the next car coming into the stage behind us to stop and assist. That's a must. Okay, so I'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching that part, and we'll catch up you shortly.